Jaya Jaya Ma Sharada Sunita Vishwavandita Parama Punita Jaya Shama Sundari Kishori Ramachandra Duhita Atibori Jaya Jaya Bhuvana Vimohini Mata Jaya Suchi Ruchi Mukha Mangala Data Jaya Karuna Varuna Kalyani Jaya Santati Vatsala Amani Tumahi Uma Janaki Radha Jaga Yaga Tapa Priti Agada Tumahi Jnana Karma Ki Basha Achala Bhakti Ki Tuma Paribasha Pavana Tamamana Jivana Ganga Nirmala Chaviravi Rashmi Vabhanga Rama Krishna Gata Prana Tumhare Rome Rome Tanama Uchare Harne Ko Bhuba Tumoye Samsara Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karbhavahai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvishovahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. Welcome back to the second half and the final half of this 5-class series of food, prana, and sadhana. And we managed to get through that wonderful chart, purification is sadhana. And now we have going for us this, having gotten halfway through this chart on the role of food and prana in self-realization. We looked at that last week, taking up this whole swing here towards psychic prana. And now we want to move in this chart to Shakti power and its results. What you see there are meditation on Ishvara, attain to samadhis, and notice how samadhis is plural. We'll explain that in a bit. And then meditation on Brahman and attain Nirvikalpa samadhi, that's singular. Help souls out of bondage and reach this luminous mind depicted here by Lord Shiva. That's a quick summation of the final leg of this journey we've taken from food to prana to psychic prana to Shakti. Shakti is going to launch us into a much deeper phase of our sadhana. You might say even beyond sadhana, you begin to have the actual experiences of meditation on Ishvara, which is here. Now, Shakti power, we might as well be adding here Ishvari, or at least make sure that we know that when we're talking about Shaktism or Divine Mother Path, that Ishvara, the actual equality of that in a feminine form would be Ishvari. We want to make that note. These people have their ideals as Kali and Durga and Lakshmi and Saraswati, some 4 or 5 of the Radha, and those are like called Prakriti Panchaka, or the 5 main forms of Divine Mother. Durga coming first, being this ancient tantric goddess, and then you have Kali and you have Parvati and Saraswati, and so these 5 main forms of the goddess are present there. So we would call that Ishvari. Now, in terms of this corner turn we've made here, then we're heading towards, and she is helping us to attain or begin to have the fruits of this spiritual experience, and that's called samadhi. These samadhis are probably best documented by Patanjali, the father of yoga, and we know that that happens to be 4 different seated samadhis, and 2 of those are split into objective and subjective. So you actually really have 6 seated samadhis as far as Patanjali is concerned, all leading to this one unseated samadhi. Here, the Vedantic name is used, nirvikalpa. In yoga it would be called asampragyata, which would be seedless. So you have the seated samadhis, and you have this ultimate samadhi, nirvikalpa. If you want to take that Sanskrit word apart in Vedanta, nirvi is just like the word nirvana, or nirguna, beyond the gunas. If you put kalpa after that Sanskrit root there, nir, then it becomes beyond time, or beyond phases of time, beyond relativity, if you will. So that's the samadhi that takes you beyond everything, the gunas, and the wisdom samadhis are going to be necessary to attain. Usually, will be attained before you can get to see the samadhi. So this is pertaining to a very, very subtle, probably a better word would be causal or beyond causal level of your spiritual practice, leading into a phase of realization. Now, as that pertains to this chart, because we want to make sure we finish this up in this 5th class of this 5-class series, at the same time that we consummate this one, which has been our main chart all along. Really, when we looked at this last time, we looked at the right-hand side of the chart, and we saw how food with mantra gives you healthy prana, which goes in accord with this chart, and then that'll give you ojas, or this stored-up spiritual energy, and that will consummate in tejas. So we looked at that and the quotes last time, and this is, of course, familiar ground for most of our SRV devotees, because we've taught this chart quite a bit. It's been posted in every one of our kitchens in our ashrams, and people have looked at it very seriously and hopefully implemented it into their practice and become conscious and aware, open up nadis into its teachings, as we were saying in the first half. On the left-hand side, pretty much across from the chakras, which are listed in the middle as a symbol, and we went up from transmigration in cycles to worldly life commencing, and then cycles of transmigration that end and spiritual life proceeds, and we begin to work our way into what spiritual life is really telling us. And remember we talked about the maturation of devotion. If you think back to Holy Mother's purification, the sadhana chart, you'll remember that she wants us to intensify the mantra and meditate on Ishvara now, with that kind of single-pointed mind. And so that has to do with this practices that the devotee is implementing to mature their devotion. Quite often you'll go to at least the swamis and the teachers of the Ramakrishna order, and if you ask them, I've done the 4 yogas now, and I'm committed and I'm dedicated to my ideal, and everything seems to be going well, my karmas are getting neutralized, I feel great, spiritually speaking. What's next? And they'll say, increase your devotion. So this is the doorway, son to the father kind of doorway that is being explained here, or revealed here on this chart, that when the psychic prana is really flowing and Shakti is in command of things via your self-surrender and your study of her wisdom and your worship, then you turn this corner and really you have this maturation of devotion that is playing a great part in removing all obstacles to having samadhi. This is where the 2 wings of the bird, as we said, are flapping furiously and launching the soul out of Maya or samsara. And That's going to be facilitated very much by this meditation done with the two wings of the bird, wisdom and devotion. You can see how the two are really coming together here in a big way. In fact, there are songs about that. Here's a beautiful illustration of one. Namaste Jagachinja Manaswarupe Namaste Mahayogini Jnanarupe Namaste Sadanandananda Swarupe Namaste Jagatarini Trayadurge. These are verses of the Ambika Durga Stotram. It's from the Vishvasara Tantra, one of the Tantra scriptures, singing about Divine Mother of the Universe. It says, I bow down devoutly to the true refuge of all beings, who along with Lord Shiva destroys ignorance and soothes the miseries of relative existence. O thou, in whom the universe resides and who permeates entirely the universe, your lotus feet are most worthy of worship. And the hymn goes on to say, for those who look within, your excellent form is the true object of meditation. So you find Shakti flowing inside you. It's almost very natural to think of her as feminine. It's natural to think of her as wisdom flowing as feminine, a wisdom goddess and so forth. This whole side of God with form in Shaktism or Divine Mother, and you really can't say that it's not there in Vaishnavism as Radha and as Shaivism as Parvati and so forth. That Mother is really fully on the field then, doing battle with any remaining negativities and removing any vestiges or shrouds of subtle ignorance that may be clouding your vision of higher reality and your experience of having samadhis. And this is really where her grace figures into the whole thing. And it goes on to say, you are the true object of meditation because yoga, jnana are perfectly embodied in you. So yoga as practice and jnana as wisdom perfectly embodied in the Mother upon whom you're meditating. That's three of the main four yogas. Meditation, Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is wisdom yoga, and then yoga itself, called Raja or Patanjala, eight-limbed, Ashtanga if you will, eight-limbed yoga, are all perfectly embodied in Mother, is the beautiful sentiment or truth in this verse. You are the consummate yogini. So I say, Namaste Mahayogini. You're the consummate yogini. I salute thee. The auspicious one, even the Lord, means Shiva, turns blissful and gets delight upon beholding you. So just the very look of her, you see the very vision of her and so forth, automatically gives him bliss. O Savior of the universe, Mother Durga, protect us eternally. So it's a beautiful verse. There are several of them from the Durga Stotram in the Vishvasara Tantra. So you see those illustrated in that way in musical form. And so that they go hand in hand with the scriptural, which to some people would maybe seem a little dry or incomplete. They're gaining wisdom from it, but they have something burning in their heart, or they want to have a vision of Mother. They want to see her. They want to be one with her. They want to sport, just like Vaishnavas would with Krishna and Ram, and the Shaivites would with Shiva. They want to sport with that most consecrated and beautiful of all forms. And this is again back to this idea of visualization, right? You have to be inwardly oriented to turn today's imagination into tomorrow's visualization, and then have that turn into realization. And there's other beautiful songs. I think we even might have sung one last week about, oh mind, come with me, let's go into the shrine of the heart, leave everyone else outside, and I'll worship you there. And I'll leave my senses behind, because I know you can't take the eye or ear into that shrine, inmost shrine. The senses have to end, You may have subtle senses that you can experience that with, like in Dream Tonight. And then he says humorously at the end, oh, but I'll bring my tongue, because when I see you, I'll have to sing your praises. See? Beautiful song about a mother in the mother tradition. So something about maturation of devotion to launch us in this further trajectory up inwards. Inward ascension, we'd say. The cessation of new karmas, remember us mentioning that? The karmas that are new, you're going to want to take care of them first, because they're beginning to take away too much of your time, like fires, putting out little fires, they say. Kind of astonishing at first that your old karmas will persist longer, but that's usually the way of it. You have to kind of reach peace of mind first, so that these new fires are getting put out. Then you can concentrate, you see. And if you can concentrate, you can intensify that yogic fire. We were talking about that today too, in case of Swami Vivekananda, how he had this yogic fire. He said, I can go up to the Himalayas, all I need is a scripture and the Himalayas and my yogic fire, and I'll be fine. It's all I need. And he probably could do away with the scripture, just because it's all in his head. But this yogic fire was how he burned away all the ignorance on a collective level in humanity, and opened up channels himself, which were people. I mean, when we open up channels, it's our own personal nadis, right? But when a soul like Vivekananda opens channels, it's people that he's opening up. The whole thing. Is not just one channel. You become his channel. And that's called dedication and so forth. Then you can meditate too. You can concentrate, meditate, which is, remember, we're in two places here, but consummating both these charts in the final hour here. And intensify yogic fire, then you can destroy all old karmas. You're going to need some real powerful inner ability on that intensification level, or intensified level, to be able to do away with the old karmas, because they're rather nagging and tend to cling and stick. Hard to find, for one thing. This is why you took a guru back earlier, because he may not even immediately tell you about your old karmas. He can read them on your features quite often if he's a real master like Sri Ramakrishna. But he might not tell you about them, because, well, let's let him take care of his new karmas first and get everything prepped and ready, and then we can, when the old karmas come, we can deal with those with these higher practices. One of them, again, being meditation. So you get to your old karmas that way, and remember about old karmas, although they may be hard to see, but Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother guided people who were reaching their last lifetime. There's one of the Swamis, for instance, of the Ramakrishna order, one of the direct disciples, was having his first enlightenment. And of course, some of the Hindu men and women that came to him were partial incarnations of gods and goddesses. So they were beings who hadn't yet transcended the realm of the gods. So when they're born in humans, they're born as very powerful beings, or very deep beings. So Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother had experience with taking people that were advanced and giving them the next higher level of their realization, helping them win that ground. It's just very hard to win. It's like to get past the three centers to the heart is difficult for most people. You transcend the ancestors. But to get past the heart into the throat and third eye is another level of difficulty. And there's a very subtle barrier between the third eye and the Sahasrara, using the body as a physical example, this. as a sort of a template for it. Very, very difficult to penetrate through the third eye and get to the Sahasrara chakra, fully illumined souls. Like we were reading last night about Vivekananda's Mahasamadhi on July 4th, and how the scriptures say that if when you pass, you penetrate through that and arrive at the Sahasrara chakra, that's how the fully illumined souls exit out of their body, out of this topmost center, inmost center would be the way to put it, really. And that's why they say, the scriptures even mention sometimes there's a little blood in the eyes and the nostril, and maybe even on the lip a little bit, because such a rush of energy had gone up. Shakti power, she had gone up and penetrated through and spat out the body, as he would say. He said that in a dream to one of his fellow monks later on. Showed up in front of him in the subtle body and said, I spat out the body the other day. See? This was a Swami in a different part of India, so he didn't know Vivekananda had even passed yet. So he had a vision right there on the path in front of the quarter he was staying in. Vivekananda walked up to him and didn't find out later that Swamiji had passed, but he already was there in advance to tell him, I spat out the body. So when you do that, then sometimes the scriptures mention this. So my point being here, to exit out of this highest, most center is very, very rare and very, very powerful thing to do. And old karmas that are in the way will have to go. So that's what I was actually starting to say, is that these old karmas that are penultimate to that realization, the getting rid of them, you shouldn't think of them as something being very, very difficult. Just think of them as being very subtle to see. Once you see them with all that you have under your control now, you see, now that you have all of this arsenal of spiritual weapons and tools that you can rely on, then you see that these old karmas are like burnt ropes. See, along the way of your sadhana, you actually had already burnt most of them, and the only thing that's left for them is just the thought of their existence. See? That's what's impeding you. You're holding a thought of something that was gone already. It's like a burnt rope. It can't bind you anymore, but it still looks like a rope. See? Let's take another example. You're looking up at the stars in the sky, and many of those have already expired. Right? The light is still coming at you because such a distance. So what you're seeing there is a non-star. It's not really in existence anymore, but the light is taking so long to travel that you're still seeing it there as a star. It's an illusion. Star is gone long ago. And in that same way, that karma was gone long ago, but it's like a burnt rope. So you're still holding a thought of it. So this is how subtle it gets to penetrate through old karmas at the level they're speaking here in the tantric teachings, and the level we're talking here in the Vedantic teachings. Somebody wrote me today and asked, she's actually a young lady back in the East Coast who's studying quantum physics, and she's very interested in Vedanta and wants to know all about it. And she wrote and asked the relationship between yoga and Vedanta, and I said, there's hardly a better one in existence. As Vedanta is not a practice, it's just a declaration of truth. And there may be little, shades of practice in it, but it's at that very high level that we're just talking about. But yoga definitely takes you from the very root, if you need it, and introduces you to the prana, and then to the psychic prana, and then to the mind, and so forth. And it does the whole 8-limb thing for you. So it's a practice. It's a yoga of practice, and there's hardly a better one in existence to take if you really want to go the full route with spiritual life. But Vedanta sort of waits with it. So waits for it, for you to come to this realization that is the Vedanta, that is the Upanishads, the truth stated there by realized souls. They may have done their practice long ago, but now they've arrived and they're giving you this final summation. That's the Upanishads. So the advantage of having both the Upanishads and yoga and putting it together is very profound. It's a great path. So I was writing her back about this, how quite often that's what many of us are doing, whether we know it or not. Those of us who gained the boon of Vedanta and then look at the divine couple and see how tantric they are, we begin to put this together over time. Really, our path is really Vedic and tantric both. The two rivers are flowing side by side and mingling their waters, as I've often said. And one side is more of a devotional practice side, and the other side is more of a wisdom knowing side. Tattva Gyan and Upashna Dhyan are words that you could put to those two paths. Tattva Gyan, the knowledge or wisdom of inner principles. Upashna Dhyan, meditation on the deities. See, beautifully put. That's sort of like Vedanta and Tantra, putting them together, or Vedanta and yoga. Because yoga and Tantra also have a very fine mix, like in Tibetan Buddhism and so forth. You have these are what's called hybrids that work. You see, we know there are hybrids that don't work very well, but these are a couple in time, as far as religion and philosophy and spiritual practice go, that really worked. See, and are still working today. All right, so destroy all karmas, then you get to this tejas level. You can transmit the teachings to others. When Holy Mother already told us in this previous chart, in the last half, she said, now turn and help others, right? So you get yourself free, or as free as possible, and then you help others along the way. And you can do that with her wisdom compassion path. That is actually the greatest compassion, is to teach them teachings. And who concurs with that? Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says very directly at the end, those who teach my wisdom teachings, I consider that to be the highest path, the best thing you can do, and the best sacrifice of all, is to teach the Jnana Yoga to others. That's Holy Mother's Jnanodaya Yoga. You don't just have compassion for their poor predicament. You put that together with teachings that are going to get them out of their predicament, if and when they will implement them. It's like, welcome to my world kind of idea. As Ramakrishna used to say, my eyes have become red blowing on the waning coals of your spiritual practice. See, so it's not an easy path to try and awaken people from the sleep of ages. With all that karma, all those samskaras, to convince them even is hard. What to speak of actually awaken them to the higher truth. So this is the role you have to hold if you want to transmit teachings to others. And there are things you'll have to take on to do that. Speaking about the marvelous Vivekananda last night and today in his Mahasamadhi time, how he did that for the collective consciousness. He shifted awareness in the collective consciousness. That's an amazing feat, you see. Unprecedented, really. The only person who did that before him was Ramakrishna in his 12-year sadhana. He paved the way by changing human consciousness, by his very presence on earth, so that Vivekananda could then come along and take that power that came from Sri Ramakrishna's 12-year sadhana and apply it to the world. And a lot of it was applied right here to the West, to you, to us. This is what we've been given. And if you're, they used to say, freedom comes with responsibility. It's not just given to you and, oh boy, see, you can dance off and cut capers. As Ramakrishna used to say, see, go cut capers, dance and sing. See, freedom, real freedom, comes with very deep responsibility. So part of that kulyana, as we say in a way, is ability to transmit teachings. And in the meantime, before you're ready to do that, you can share them. See? That's how Sri Ram puts it. Sri Ram, we sing about him sometimes in such a beautiful way, when we meditate upon him, which is actually very apropos to what we're just studying here. When we sing to him, Tulasi dasa kaha kar jori Tulsidasa kaha kara jodi, Bhavasagara kara paroji, Bhavasagara tara paroji, Bhavasagara paroji, Bhavasagara tara paroji, Bhavasagara paroji, Bhavasagara tara paroji. Etani vinati raghunandana se. This is my prayer to thee, O Raghunanda. Beautiful bhajan by Tulsidas, whose name is rather resounds in the airs of fame, as far as music that has crossed the border from India into the West. Tulsidas has some very beautiful, profound songs. He was a lover of Sri Ram, but he also loved the Divine Mother. He wrote a couple songs to her, and of course Shiva. So he was very consummate, integral kind of devotee of God. With form. But if you want to say Tulsidas was only a lover of form, then you forgot to sing this verse. Apne pankaj kaj pinjar mein, apne padapan kaj pinjar mein, chita hamsa hamara vitauji, and so forth and so on. They end up singing the whole song. Basically, it's, this is my prayer to thee, Raghunanda, kindly destroy my mind's tendency to perceive duality. Did he sound like a dualist to you? If he's praying for the demise of duality in his mind, so he can see the non-dual truth. Okay? So, this is another great, like Kabir, another great wisdom singer of devotional songs. See, that puts together all the yogas and all the ideals into one beautiful expression. Incomparable kind of ideal there. So then you'll get to these transcendent experiences. Now let's segue away from this, having completed this upward trajectory twice in two different ways, and up the chakras as well, back to our psychic power jog here. Shakti power, psychic prana to Shakti power jog, getting into these higher levels of connecting mind and prana together. See, that's the name of the chart, right? Pretty much why I fashioned this chart to go with the topic of food, prana, and sadhana. Connecting the living prana to the luminous mind. Here's your luminous mind, Lord Shiva, there. And so we're marching inward towards that consummate realization. If not consummate, then penultimate first. So penultimate means attain these samadhis, as we just talked about. If you attain these samadhis, then you've attained savitarka, savichara, nirvitarka, nirvichara, sasmita, and sananda. Those are these wisdom samadhis, bliss samadhis, and knowledge samadhis, and ripe ego samadhis. If you want to try and put them into English generally really quickly, that Patanjali says are the seated ones. Seated because they're in form. Wisdom is in form, the ego is in form, bliss is even experienced in form, as far as we're concerned. That bliss that is experienced outside of form would be Ananda Sagara, the ocean of bliss itself, where the hailstone already gave up its form when it fell. But as far as we're concerned in the embodied condition, there's a Sananda Samadhi that gives us great bliss. You probably saw Sri Ramakrishna or read about Sri Ramakrishna having it all the time. See, that was when he was in his very blissful mode. But there are also modes he went into that were very, very impersonal, very, very indrawn, and he was gone for hours, sometimes days, in this indrawn samadhi. Especially when he first had it at the behest of Tatapari, his Advaita teacher, who was amazed to see Ramakrishna go into it and stay in it for so long, because he had taken 40 years to even attain a bit of it. And then he teaches this man, this crazy Kali priest, tantric seeming, who comes off the steps of the Dakaneshwar temple. He says, "You look like a very qualified, let me teach you the non-dual truth." Ramakrishna says, "Let me go ask my mother, if I can." And so Tataprabhu is thinking, what a strange guy. He's full grown, saying mature and everything, and he's got to go ask his mother. So Sri Ramakrishna disappears into the Kali temple. Comes out. His mother says, "It's okay, you can teach me that." So he consulted Mother Kali. And then Tataprabhu took him off into the Panchavati, the grove of trees, which is hardly there anymore if you go to Calcutta, but you see a semblance of it there. And back in there, had him started instructing him how to get into, past the samadhis, into the non-dual samadhi. Sri Ramakrishna did it in a matter of a short time. Not sure, remember, maybe 3 days it took him to actually get into non-dual samadhi, which is very, very rare. And, blew Totapri's mind. Probably wasn't an expression we used back then, but it applies now. Because he was very much impressed with Sri Ramakrishna's ability to do that. So that as a sort of an attending story on this, finishing up this class, this series, and this chart, which was especially prepared for it. So when you get to that level of meditation on Ishvara, form has got to dissolve. See, we read that last night in Swamiji's last days, which we read out during our observance of his Mahasamadhi. That basically you'll go through all forms and arrive at this formless, non-dual state. So you'll experience these samadhis then. How long that will take before you have nirvikalpa samadhi is going to depend on karmas, samskaras, old karmas, capacity, ability, time, mother's grace. There's a whole host of things that is going to dictate that. Could happen quicker or slower, and that doesn't mean you're more progressed or less progressed. If either one of those happens, it's just all up to Mother's grace, because you have arrived to Shakti power and she's operating everything now. See, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when I saw Mother, then she used to sit me down in meditation. I hear my joints being locked. Could actually hear the sounds of my arms, elbows, knees being locked, and she wouldn't let me move. And she made me meditate for long, long periods of time in that position. Another time she said, whenever I did move, I felt like I was a bunch of sticks strung together with string, and she was the puppeteer. See? So she would take me here and there. So he was having these experiences after his self-surrender, full self-surrender to his Ishtam, Kali, his Ishvari form, Ishtadevi, we call it, Ishtadevata if it's the male form, like in the case of Tulsi Das with Ram. So Ishtadevi, and in order to have these samadhis, to set up pure meditation on Brahman alone. Samadhana, the fifth of the six Vedantic jewels and the four treasures, is called Samadhana. It's the ability to meditate on Brahman and nothing else but Brahman. It's very rare to be able to do that. Have you meditated on Brahman lately? Well, how did that go? See, good luck with that. See, let's try and meditate on formlessness, and the thought I'm meditating on formlessness comes. How do you get over that? You see, to empty the mind out completely and enter into that, we might as well go back to Holy Mother's chart and her quote there. Meditate on Ishvara. When the time comes for you to have a meditation on Brahman, it'll happen naturally. See? Can't really plan it out. Sort of like bribe Divine Mother. Can I have Nirvikalpa Samadhi now? See? I'll sacrifice a buffalo. See, or something like that. So you can't bribe Mother. See, everything is in its own time. She knows the time, and you're hers. So, that's how it's going to proceed, and that's going to be the best for you if you don't resist that. You just go with the flow. Another expression they didn't use way back then. So when you can meditate on Brahman and you start having those experiences, then and not until then can you have this nirvikalpa samadhi. For instance, Shankara knew about this very well and put it in these beautiful ways. Say in Nirvana Shatkam, right? I was helping someone learn part of that today, so we could sing it on the harmonium, but here there are 6 verses, Nirvana Shatkam. It means the 6 verses on Nirvana, which is this highest samadhi. Shankara wrote this as a real classic, and the final verse he consummates it all by saying, Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupo vibhutva cha sarvatra sarvendriyanam nacha sangatam naiva muktir nameya nacha sangatam naiva muktir nameya chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. I have no form, I have no fancy. This is Vivekananda's translation. The all-pervading am I. Everywhere I exist, yet I am beyond the senses. Neither salvation am I, nor anything that can be known. I am pure consciousness. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Shankara's beautiful stotram, last verse called Nirvana Shatkam, so the actual experience of being one with Brahman, where all form has gone away, and this is how he expressed it in a sloka. See, this beautiful stotram. One of the few non-dual stotrams that you have, along with Hasta Amalaka stotram and a very few others, that express the inexpressible as far as it will go with words and music. It's very rare. I got very interested in stotrams when I learned bhajans in India, but when I started hearing the stotrams, I said, yeah, that's something I'd like to ruminate on. And the best way to ruminate on it is to memorize it and sing it, and then think about it afterwards. It becomes a part of you. It's part of the very fabric of your being. So you're not ever in lacking or have any scarcity of material, if you will, for meditating on the formless Brahman. The suggestion even of that kind of higher wisdom is that way. So a nice way to express in music this ability, beyond abilities really, this arrival at attaining nirvikalpa samadhi. And you see, it says, help souls out of bondage. It's rather contradictory in a way, because you don't see bondage anymore. Yeah, we have to sort of understand this about souls that have had those higher experiences, that they're not seeing suffering, so they don't need compassion. They're not seeing the world as other than Brahman, so they don't have any ignorance. They're not seeing that you need help, because you're already Atman. See, this is how they see it, actually. So it's going to be a step down for them if you come up to them and say, help me, save me, save me. Well, yeah, well, go to the teachers, they'll save you, you see. Learn the Dharma. So it's rather a contradiction or a sort of conundrum when you say help souls at that level, because they know the world's unreal. They know the individual soul's not ultimately real. There's only one indivisible soul, not a bunch of individual souls. That's the truth that they've realized. So it's going to be hard for them to look at you as an indivisible soul that needs help, you see. And this is actually, say, take Christ Lila, the play of Christ on the world. I mean, we call it a play on purpose because it's not like they didn't actually suffer when they came here. Everyone suffers in the form. But, their suffering wasn't a charade or something. But they suffered from a very superlative level. Like Sri Ramakrishna is saying, somebody asked him, that cancer of the throat, doesn't that hurt? And Sri Ramakrishna said, only when I come down and talk to you. See, as soon as you go away, my mind goes back up to the feet of Kali and I don't feel this anymore. See? Well, it's the same with Christ, right? I mean, if he goes and sees someone stoning an adulteress, or, he sees someone suffering, he would just say, you've fallen into an error, just go and sin no more. So there's no judgment there. There's no eternal damnation there. There's no sin there. Probably not even looking at a transgression there. He's just saying that you made a wrong turn on the path and just get yourself back on, you see. This is the way they actually see things. And it's hard to understand if you're born and raised only in the sort of morality and ethics atmosphere of present-day Christianity and Judaism to some extent. So you need to understand again the non-dual nature of things, don't you? I mean, you could just say, save me, see, and stay there. That's not what they want. You get to the Father through the Son. You don't stop at the Son. In fact, if you've gotten to the Son, you're probably already saved. So why are you lamenting, save me, you see? That's salvation, right? But beyond salvation is liberation, as the Vedantists are so fond of saying. So liberation is, I'm free. Freedom tastes of reality. So that is the real you've arrived at, the non-dual reality, Advaita Vedanta. That's what's its greatest message. And you find flavors and tastes and aromas of it in other religions, but nowhere is it focused on, like say in a non-dual stotram like that, right out of Mother India. Many times. That's been their understanding from the get-go, is that the soul is a parinama, free of change. That is, it's not parinama, the soul doesn't change, it's a parinama, it has no change in it. And a jativada, it never dies because it was never born. Now I could sing you the 5th verse. Na mrityor na shanka name jati beta. Pita naiva me naiva mata ma janmaha. Pita is father, mata is mother. I have no father and mother, he sings. I have no death because I was never born, he sings. See? He sang that just before the Aham Nirvikalpa verse, right? I am pure conscious awareness. I am Shiva. So it introduces us to the idea, if we haven't already been introduced, that these are the highest reaches, the loftiest reaches of pure conscious awareness. We have to introduce ourselves to this. Like I said last week, Mauna Kea back there behind us, you see. We have to go up 10,000 feet and acclimatize, then 11, then 12. Maybe have to come down, get rid of that headache, then go back, you see. Let our mules rest. Our mules are our mind, our ego, our chitta, you see. There's a great analogy play there, you see, but whatever the case may be, you need to acclimatize yourself to heights like that. And this is what I'm doing right now to help you do that. You hear, it's a nadi. See, it's a channel you run. Now you're aware of it. You're aware that someone did it. You're aware that's probably what you're looking at when you're looking at a realized soul, souls who did that. And you're aware that that's the rarest kind of experience to have. And now you're open to it. Just like that. So when it comes time for you to meditate and have samadhi, you will. Who can stop mother from giving her child what she wants to give? See? So, as I was saying about karmas, don't worry about those old karmas that seem so hard to get rid of. They're burnt ropes. When it comes to samadhi, claim it for yourself. Shankara, who's the author of this song, told us in Vivekachudamani, said, practice samadhi. He's like giving us permission. See? Practice samadhi. Practice having samadhi. So where you're sitting down saying, I think I'll try and concentrate. Why don't you sit down next time and say, all right, it's time for samadhi. That ennobling thought might just open a channel straight to the river of consciousness flowing to the ocean of bliss. For you, see. At that moment, in that time. Never mind if you don't remember it when you come back. You're opening a channel, it might close up again. But these are subtle channels you need to open. And maybe you need to see them close and be without them. You know how that's how the illumined souls suffer. It's because they've seen God and then all of a sudden they can't anymore. They've seen their heart's desire and delight. And then all of a sudden she's gone? What's wrong with this picture? You see? You've had samadhi and all of a sudden they have to come down to lower samadhis? Ho-hum. You see? Enough of wisdom, enough of dharma. Where's that nirvikalpa, you see? And this is what Sri Ramakrishna exemplified for us, if he exemplified anything, that mankind's true nature is samadhi. So you should be having it. It's not like get in there and have that fun. See? Beings have not gathered around Master and I just to have fun, she said. And it's work, but it's not a work of the kind that is draining you of life. It's not that kind of work that's making you depressed. It's not that kind of work that's making you attached to money and possessions and family, the triple bondage. It's a kind of work that is subtle, inward moving, and culminating in something of the highest import for you. The very nature of your soul impinges on that nirvikalpa. See? And there is no higher experience than that. That is the culmination of all experiences. If you ask Swami Brahmananda, Rakal, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, he'll say, nirvikalpa, that's really the beginning of spiritual life. Wait, I thought all of this was the beginning. So it really means that when you have nirvikalpa samadhi, nothing but nirvikalpa samadhi exists or ever existed for you. You just weren't seeing it. You were in different stages of delusion. Gross, subtle, or causal, as the case may be. And this was always your true nature, and it always will be your true nature, and it will never not be your true nature. So, what is left? Help souls out of bondage. We were talking about the sort of conundrum of that saying. So, by your very bones you shall teach. Sri Ramakrishna told Vivekananda that. He said, you will go and teach souls. And Vivekananda said, who am I to teach? And he said, don't worry about it. Your very bones will teach people. And there's your very presence. You come to the West, people are being taught just by you showing up. Talk about opening nadis, or channels. That man, by his very presence, did so. He just had this ability, like a hot knife through butter, just to cut through people's ignorance and cause them to remember their past lifetimes on the spot. There are stories about people walking up along the streets of Chicago, New York, and so forth, and seeing this poster, Vivekananda, a Hindu monk, Hindoo. You see, the newspapers didn't even know how to spell it yet. The Hindu monk, you see. And just by seeing his picture on that poster, awakened. There are stories in our tradition about this. So, by his very presence he will teach. So he didn't have to open his mouth. One of his female disciples said, I went to see him. He opened his mouth. Truth came out. Then I went to see him again. He opened his mouth. Truth came out. I saw him toward the end of his life. Nothing but truth came out. You see. So he opens his mouth and he teaches by his very presence. So this is a person who's had Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So that's how they help other souls. Not by any effort on their part, although, as we're saying, he can change the collective consciousness of the world, and has, and is still. Give it time, because this is dense here, isn't it? It's very dense. Flesh is weak. Mind is slow. We need to return to that original mind that's lightning fast. And when it's lightning fast, who is there? Who's your mother? Shakti is your mother. Who's your mama? And so that's when things are happening at an accelerated speed, spiritually speaking, for you. Let's read that final quote under the luminous mind that we've arrived at. My young friend, the one who knows that imperishable one in which rests the mind, the prana, and the senses, verily becomes omniscient and enters into everything. The great Rishi Pipalada said that in the Prashna Upanishad to his young charge, his young disciple that came to him. My young friend, the one who knows that imperishable one, that is through Nirvikalpa Samadhi, knows the Atman, knows Brahman, in which rests the mind, the prana, and the senses, verily becomes omniscient and enters into everything. So the name of this series of classes has been Food, Prana, and Mind, or Sadhana. And that's what all of those rest, you see, there, in that imperishable Brahman. And we only need to espy them and bring them out. Upanishads say it's like extracting oil from sesame seeds. It's like knowing that there's fire potential in wood. It's like patina in copper. You ever put a penny or fallen on the bathroom floor and you put it on a shelf in the shower? See, a little while later, things turning green, from copper to green. Patina is in copper. Who would have thunk? See. Oils in sesame seed. Who would have known unless they collected them, planted them, gardened them, collected them, invented a press, and pressed a bunch of them to get a drop of oil? Who would have known that that nutritious oil was in that sesame seed? In the same way, who knows that this indivisible Atman is in everything, and is your very true nature. So that's what making connections from food and prana to the luminous mind is all about. In 5 classes, I hope you have benefited from them, and will do the requisite sadhana, spiritual discipline, in order to avail yourself of the dharmic wisdom that will free you, given self-surrender to the Shakti, whose wisdom it is. So here, and a little early, we will end with a chant and conclude our series of 5 classes on this subject. Om Bhadram Karnibhihi Srinayama Devaha Bhadram Pasyema Akshabir Yajatraha Stirairangayishtushtuvam Sastanuvir Vyashema Devahitam Yayuhu Swasti Na Indra Vrida Shravah Swasti Na Pusha Vishwadevaha Swasti Na Starksho Arishtanemihi Swasti No Brihaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we hear with these ears what is good and noble. May we see with these eyes what is uplifting and beneficial. And may we, while worshipping the Lord and Mother with healthy minds and bodies, live a life which is beneficial to ourselves and to all other beings. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.
Taraka Sharat Narendra Shashi Vatu Hari Babaram Rakala Sneha Shuddha Tava Panakara Sabaho Gai Nihala Madho Nijapada Padme Men Nita Kanda Vishwas Katin Banda Baba Umati Mira Nite Tapa Trayatras. Mata Shri Sharada Devi